Hi, good morning. I think beautiful talks before me. I'll start with my story, which goes back to 2010, which is not so far long back. I was about 23, 24-ish years of age, and I was into a parallel world of an advertiser, filmmaker, communications, and so on and so forth. And it was just during one of the advertising film shoots that I was doing in the area that I meet this young mother about 36 years of age, and she had 6 daughters. She was very heavily pregnant, but I remember when I was just out of my advertising, the scene had kind of gotten over, the crew was packing up, and I was angry at something. At 23, 24, you just tend to be angry at all the injustices that you see a little more vocally than you do at 35. But I think nothing much has changed, I think, in the last 10 years, and thankfully so. But even at that time, I think something had happened, and I was angry, and I was, in this, mode of confusion, where I was wanting to question the higher powers, so that time. And in that mode of anger, in that mode of a little aggression or confusion or chaos, in my head, I walked up to the nearby slum, and during those times, I had a little digital camera that used to have those digi-pixel cameras that you have in your pockets. And I remember going in that area, and this is a very urban slum in the country that I'm talking about. This is not that I'm talking about some state somewhere where the access to services wouldn't be there as much. This is a proper metro that I'm talking about. And I go to this area, I see this 10, 11-month-old baby sitting next to, in Punjabi we call it manji, right? So she's sitting next to a cot or a manji, and she is वो सूखी गोबर में पेंसिल से छेद कर रही थी, and whatever would break off of the dried cow dung, she was trying to eat. The mother was sitting right there, and this sight just caught me off guard, and whatever I was thinking or was angry about immediately just vanished away. And I saw this, and immediately I had an apple in my bag. I pick up that apple very spontaneously. Now that I think, I try to connect the dots. So the first conversation I have with the mother, so the mother takes the apple and says, she cuts it into 6 pieces for each of her daughters. And उस दिन उस घर में मेरे लिए full cream दूध की चाय बनी, which is a luxury, right? It never even reaches our subconscious, right? So when she did those, she cut the apple in 6 pieces, gave each to each of her daughters to eat. The little one, the mother tells me, उसको नहीं पता होगा कि ये खाने की चीज़ है, because all that she's ever eaten is dal or a chawal or a roti, so she wouldn't know that this is something ये सेब खाने की चीज़ है. And just when I was having this conversation with the mother, this another 8.5-year-old girl, she walks up to me, and this kid is not walking like this, like you and I would walk, right? This kid is walking like this. So I asked the mother, is she okay? Has she fallen down while playing? Is something happened to her? And the mother tells me as a very candid, matter-of-fact way, नहीं, हर 3-4 दिन में कोई आदमी आता है, condom वंडम हम use करते हैं, but every 3-4 days somebody comes, and that's how I'm able to run the home, and she's going to be okay. So she's just a little hurt, but she's going to be okay. And I'm standing there as a 23-year-old, and remember, the story is not about me. I might be, standing here talking about the story, talking about my experience of it, but the story is not about me. ProtSahan is not about me, right? But about this girl who, जिसकी शायद उस घर की चाय, दूध वाली चाय का ऋण शायद मैं आज तक नहीं चुका पाई, because I don't know वो किस पैसे की चाय थी, right? And I think when I look back, I think back, so I think I froze in that moment when the mother said what she said to me. And when I asked her, what is it that you're going to do with the 7th baby, which is in your womb? She tells me again as a very matter of fact कि अगर लड़का होगा तो बड़े होके पढ़ाएंगे लिखाएंगे, he will earn and give it back to us. But this time if it's a girl, I'm going to strangle her the moment she's born. And at 23, I still would like to believe that I don't have much sense right now, but at 23 I certainly didn't. But one thing was for sure, that I couldn't move away from this place and say, hey, my part of the journey here in this moment is done. And I think within half an hour, MBA आपको कुछ और सिखाए ना सिखाए एक feasibility study करनी सिखा देता है. Or just, we went, I went into the area, figured out, was this the problem of just this kid who was being trafficked or sold every fourth day? Or was it with more kids in the area, with more girls or boys, or just more kids in the area? And it just so came out that 19 girls, all the boys apparently were being sent to schools, whether it was private or government school or whatever setup of a school, but none of the girls, or as it so figured out, that 93% of the girls were not being sent to the school. And when I further figured out, this was the same day, I also did, I think I told my boss at the previous, the space where I was working, where I'd come for the shoot, I kind of took a 3-week off. I said, heart toot gaya, something I said. And I did a little feasibility study in the area, which pretty much came to this point that 19 girls were being sold or trafficked, or, if they were not trafficked, they were, sent out to the red light signals for begging. And what would happen on the red light signal was anybody's guess. And I think within 3 weeks was when ProtSahan had started. About another 3 or 4 months down the line, I quit my job. I figured out that this was probably not something that I wanted to do. I was in the very, very creative space of ads and films and writing and scripting. But I figured that, was that what I wanted to do? Maybe not. And that's how the journey of ProtSahan started. 11 years rather, hence, we're at a stage where, questions of fundraising come to me more often. Questions of program design and interventions come to me more often. How do I build a strong team? How do I hire, If I knew all of this at 23, I would have probably not started the organization, right? And I think sometimes, when you're looking at a mountain, imagine this is a mountain, right? Sometimes you're standing right here and looking at the mountain. All you see is a rock. All you see is stone, right? Only after you've moved. And even when you're going up the mountain, you will still see, hey, there's quite a bit of stuff to be. But if you've seen the mountain already from so far away, you probably would not want to climb it. So a lot of times when people say that, oh, you are too young and inexperienced and you do not know the whole deal of how the life would be and how, I think it's okay. Because the passion or the madness that comes with a little bit of inexperience, now in hindsight that I look back and I think, was a great gift. A lot of times people ask me, all those fancy questions that you have to answer in a press meet or in, in a sarkari office or in whatever places. A lot of times I get asked the same question, and I absolutely have to tell them back, now of course I understand the law. Over a period of time, I kind of studied a little bit of law to help me do my work better and so on and so forth. But a lot of times when I get asked, what is your greatest gift? How a lot of people feel that, oh, you're very intelligent, you've done something from some college. But I think the only currency that I had, even at 23 with empty pockets, was my courage. And a lot of times, or maybe some mad bit of passion. So if somebody is telling you that you do not have the IQ of an XYZ, you do not have the strength or the understanding of ABC, it's okay. Take it in your stride. Because what you do have is the madness to find a solution for something, right? And eventually along the way, if you're putting your head into it, you will eventually find answers to it. A lot of times also, right, with ProtSahan, right now in the middle of COVID, when we were on the ground, there were cases which, you're constantly on the ground, you're constantly seeing the pain, and a lot of times, all the pain, it gets to you, right? There are times when you do not know what to do with so much pain. And sometimes it feels that probably, you need to have answers for everything and everyone all the time. And I want to tell you guys, sometimes you just feel the problem is so huge. I want to tell you a little story. So this is something, so in a very convent school where I was, one of those sisters and mothers said something in a morning assembly that has not left me till date. I was probably in 4th grade. And I was always the backbencher, right? And it's never left me. It goes something like this, right? So there's this little 5-year-old boy at a seashore, and there's this old gentleman. 60, 65, right? So you see the cynicism of a 65-year-old guy and a 5-year-old guy, the inexperience. So try and look up the synergies with the 5-year-old guy if you can, right? And starfish that are lying on the seashore, because there's been a high tide the last night, and a lot of starfish have come onto the seashore, and they're just there. And if they stay there for a long time, they're going to dehydrate. You know, the water is going to go off, and somebody's going to step on them, and they're going to die. So this little boy, and when you pick up a starfish, it's not the easiest job in the whole world, right? So this little boy, in all his innocence, is picking up every starfish, throwing it back into the water. It's not easy, right? He's picking up every starfish, throwing it back into the water. And he's trying to do that for 10,000s of starfish that are lying on the shore. So this old 60, 65-year-old gentleman, he looks up at him in all the disgust and says, you know, little boy, what do you think you're going to do? What do you think you're doing? Right? There are like 10,000s of people dying and starfish dying. Can you like pick them all up and put them back in the sea? And this little boy, with all his inexperience, all his innocence, all his madness, says, it's okay. It's not my job, you know, to pick up all the 10,000s of starfish that are lying on the shore to put them back. I'm going to pick up and try whatever I can, because the entire world for that starfish has changed from then on, right? The reason why I tell you this story, you know, when you start up, you know, I run a non-profit organization, but even if it's a for-profit, you know, an entrepreneurial, honestly, with all the madness that the world will want to tell you, it's not always about starting your own venture. Entrepreneurial, you can be in who you are and what you do on every day of your life, right? With your families, with your job, with who you are, especially in the days that we find ourselves in as a country. Entrepreneurial or creativity is not about always, you know, something to do with art, right? It can be anything as a way of life. So when a lot of people these days, you know, as an NGO, a lot of people feel that NGOs are always about dharna dena hai, protest karna hai, advocacy karni hai, you know, it's all about charity. It's not that, right? And right now, in the phase that we find ourselves in as ProtSahan, there's a lot of conversation that happens about scale, right? About numbers. And my constant understanding of the whole piece has always been that scale is imperative, right? Scale is important, especially the country that we are, the numbers, the mandates that we work with, so many people dying of hunger, so many people. And sometimes it just feels that the problem is too huge to solve. But you start with one. You go to the first 19, and you will start seeing solutions along the way. Just this year itself, we've been able to raise about $250,000 to do our work. But I think the fact that we have not let the donor lead what we want to do, it's always been the other way around. Has it been difficult? Yes. Has there been resource constraints? Yes. But the team that we've built today, the amount of support that we've been able to reach out to them with, putting them in schools, making sure they have their, you know, Aadhaar and other documentation, might seem to a lot of young people as some sort of boring work, right? But when you have joy in the team that's doing it day on day on day, when you have a team of social workers who want to be there at, you know, like at 2 in the night, and you have to constantly tell them, hey, you know, all of this hustle culture is not the best thing. Take care of your body, take care of your mind, you know, do that bit of self-care. There's joy, you know, they still want to be there. And there is authenticity in what you do. You can build a powerful team. What, did I have all these, 25 people that we have today back in 2010? Absolutely not. You know, sometimes you are a lone ranger, and that's all right. A lot of times, you know, I started off by being child-free, so I got married a few years back, maybe like 4 years back. And coming from a Punjabi family, when you're married at 32, right? And you marry the Sardar of your choice, the boy of your choice, a lot of times questions get asked. And now that we choose to be child-free, questions get asked even more. Now both of us, he's left his tech consulting, and we are both running the organization to kind of take it to the last mile for the last child. And we realize that so many times questions get asked, sometimes so silly and so funny that we actually have to sit by, you know, to kind of have a laugh at it. I think because being child-free by choice, वो Indian society को अभी समझ नहीं आया. And you can't blame them, right? But do we say that, oh my God, dunya kya kahegi? Or do we just go up and live our best lives each day for the people we want to live each day? But I think one of the best things that he teaches me every day, so जब हम लड़कियों के लिए काम करते हैं, लड़कियों के साथ काम करते हैं, he tells me there were times when he's lifted his pagdi and pagdi के कपड़े से sanitary pads बनाने की बात करी है. जो पुराने पगड़ी के, for a सरदार, the पगड़ी is very very sacred, right? But जब आप किसी का दुख देखते हो, you come down to the same level as somebody else is. You bow down on your knees and offer them something, not in a space of, hey, I am the giver. That's the difference between empathy and sympathy. See which one, where do you find yourselves in? This is again something that I've learned over a period of time, that the problem will never end probably, right? We fail more days than being successful. We fail, right, with the systems, with when you're trying to work in bringing systems change of the childcare system, the education system in the country, and so on and so forth. And you have to always look and pick up your fights and your battles. Is every battle to be picked up and fought for, or do you choose your battles? Right, so in I just maybe, I don't know, like what, 6-7 years before, I used to have long hair, and I just decided to get them like really cut short because it was easier to manage with all the amount of crazy work that we were doing. I think this is just easier, right? And I used to run a lot, which after the injury I would not, but it was just easier to be that way. So when I went out the next day, I get asked this question. आप लड़कियों के लिए इतना काम करते हो, and how I looked was not like, oh, like a girl sort of a look. I don't know what's bad or good about it, but whatever I was told, and I was asked, are you a homosexual? Are you a lesbian? And I looked, I kind of, before I think I could absorb really what was said, it's like, even if I was, how was that bad or good or ugly or beautiful or whatever it was? Right? So every day when you go out, and sometimes you will choose to answer questions like that, sometimes they will make you bitter, sometimes they would just show you everything about the people, because जो ये सवाल पूछता है, it doesn't say anything about you, it says everything about them. 3 days back, one of my girls was selling her decoupage bottles. There's this beautiful thing you do to upcycle, and you make art on them and make them beautiful. And वो थी सारी whiskey bottles, right, जो रद्दी में चली जाती है. So this little artist, very 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 marginalized spaces, but just wants to be an artist, right? So she's picked up some bottles and she's painting them beautifully well, and she was at an exhibition to sell them, and 3-4 corporate people came up and they're like, ये तो दारू की बोतल है, ये लड़की बहुत गंदा काम करती है. The girl is standing right there. But that's who we are as a society. Let's not forget, all right? ये तो दारू की बोतल है, बहुत गंदा काम करती है. So I was speaking to this girl, कि कितना sale हुआ? Did you make a good buck on your art? Were the people good? And the experience of the whole piece. And she narrates this thing, and not from a space of aggression or hatred or bitterness. She just says, but ma'am, मैंने तो जो बहुत दारू की बॉटल थी, वेस्ट हो रही थी, वो it would have like polluted the environment completely, मैंने तो उसको सुंदर बनाया. And what a pretty piece of art she had created on that bottle. मैंने तो उसको सुंदर बनाया. तो मैं तो आर्टिस्ट हूँ सिर्फ, मेरा तो काम चीज़ों को सुंदर बनाना है. And this 18-year-old is telling me this, right? उनको ऐसा क्यों लगा कि मैं गंदा काम करती हूँ? 21st century में भी कोई ऐसी सोच रखता है? And then she just let it go. Always remember, and I think I'll end there also, very important, gradually, maybe, I think ab hum sab buzurg ho gaye, we might be sitting in this space and chairs and giving gyan to you guys, but we are not here, we make our mistakes every day. We fail miserably every day. And I want to tell each of you that failure is okay. It's just okay, yeah. हमें बचपन से बताया गया, oh, you can't fail at an IIT. Or a UPSC or other 20,000 exams that everybody is supposed to give, even after engineering apparently. It's okay to fail. It's okay to fall. It's okay to be rejected, because the best stuff is still waiting for you. You know, there's this beautiful wish that we always say at ProtSahan with our team members, our girls, our children, that, you know, we wish for you that, and that's my wish for each of you as well, that we wish that happiness follows you every day. Listen to it carefully, okay? And if some days you feel that, oh, there's no happiness following me today, then my wish for you is, my wish for all of you young people here today, is that it's waiting right there, clearing the path for you every day until you're ready to take it all. And trust me, the day comes. You have to just have that little wisdom of impermanence, like I say, right? That things would break, people would break, relationships would break, moments would break, you will break, I will break, right? It's okay. Let it go. Like there's this thing, you know, that's not mine, I'm probably copying it from somewhere, but like a tree lets the leaves fall and then it's still standing tall. That's the wisdom of impermanence. Everything is impermanent. Your parents will go, you will go, I will go, but you work in a way, for example, the one that we are trying to build through ProtSahan, that the work stays, the legacy stays, the joy and the authenticity of even the most serious work of fighting child abuse, that authenticity and the joy stays.